All right, welcome to the Jim Acosta Show. It's another day that ends in Y in Donald Trump's assault on American democracy. The latest example, Trump is now threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act to suppress the protests that have taken to the streets in the city of Minneapolis in response to the brutal ICE crackdown in that city, in Minneapolis. And earlier today, I had a chance to talk with somebody who is very close to all of this, the Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. A very interesting interview. Let me break down a little bit of what he had to say. He basically said if Donald Trump chooses to invoke the Insurrection Act, and if that were to unfold and troops were to start showing up in Minnesota, that they would immediately take the Trump administration to court. A lot of news in this interview. Take a look. My interview with Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, just a short time ago. And joining us now is the Minnesota Attorney General, Keith Ellison. Mr. Attorney General, great to see you as always. Thanks for coming on.
Honored to be with you, Jim. Feel free to call me Keith if you'd like.
Well, we'll do. Well, Keith, let's jump right into this. I'm sure you saw this earlier this morning. Donald Trump put out a post on Truth Social threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act. And this is what it says right here. If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act. What's your response to that? And, what happens if he does do that?
Well, it's certainly not needed at all. We're maintaining public order. I mean, last night, the ICE was arresting somebody in my neighborhood, and there were protests, but they were people who were, from what I saw, and I got pictures of what I saw, who were abiding by the law and abiding by all orders. So it seems to me completely unsupportable by the facts, because there is no public disorder that would allow such an invocation. I will say that ICE is, to the degree that we are having some struggles, it is because of the actions of the federal government. Mm-hmm. This is them who is causing students' attendance in school to go down, causing people to not go to the store and less business activity happening. It's them who's driving up the costs of overtime for our law enforcement, our local law enforcement. In fact, things would get immediately better if Trump just rethought this very bad metro surge and just went back to normal enforcement of the immigration laws. This is anything but normal. This is extraordinarily out of control on his behalf, not the state of Minnesota. We're maintaining order as is our responsibility.
Yeah, and we're seeing some of the video of these clashes last night, and I mean, you're seeing people protest, and ICE just completely, it looks like, going after these protesters and being very intimidating and threatening them, and turning your neighborhoods into what look like war zones.
Well, let me tell you, that chemical irritant was palpable in the air last night, Jim. I mean, as I walked around my own neighborhood, I could taste it, I could smell it, and it was everywhere. And it was very disturbing. There were people who didn't protest and had nothing to do with the ICE arrest, but who had their neighborhood disrupted by ICE. So I can tell you this, if Trump tries to invoke the Insurrection Act, we'll be in court with him right away, just as we are right now for the metro surge. We filed a lawsuit earlier this week, and we will be arguing it out with him on the 23rd of January for a preliminary injunction.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that lawsuit. What do you hope to accomplish with that? What do you hope the judges will decide in this? Because, I mean, there are a couple of things. One is, obviously, ICE shot and killed Renee Good and then said that the officer had absolute immunity, and said that the Minnesota authorities couldn't even investigate it, that this was going to be the feds who were going to investigate this. I mean,
and then they said they weren't.
And then they said they weren't. So I mean, how do you make heads or tails of this?
Well, it is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. By the way, our lawsuit, what do we hope to accomplish? This is not about ICE being in Minnesota. ICE has been in Minnesota. ever since ICE was established. Before them, the INS was in Minnesota. We are we're familiar and comfortable with all federal law enforcement agencies, ICE, FBI, ATF, where it's a common thing. Here's what's not common. Operation Metro Surge, a municipality, a state that has a lower population of immigrants than a whole lot of other places, including California, Utah, and Florida. And yet he surges here when there's no particularly acute problem here. He does it. He says we're corrupt because he won Minnesota in the presidential elections 3 times, but we denied it to him. This is not just wrong. This is delusional. This is crazy talk. He lost and was rejected by the people of the state of Minnesota because his values are not our values, you know? And so that's what's that. Now, on the issue of the DOJ, they have said publicly that there's nothing to investigate, and their Department of Justice Civil Rights Division is not taking any action. As a result of that, plus they're trying to make prosecutors investigate the wife of the surviving spouse.
Right. Yep.
Because of that, you just had about 6 assistant U.S. attorneys say, we're out of here. We cannot operate under these conditions, and they left. So because of these things, it seems to me that the federal government has a decision to make. If it won't investigate the death of an American person, as is its job, then hand it over to the the Minnesota Department of Bureau of Criminal Apprehension and let us do what we do. We do death investigations here all the time. It's nothing new for us, but they're holding on to things like the gun case, the bullet casings, the gun, the window, the car, and things that are essential to an investigation. In the meantime, Jim, you know, our state authorities are doing the best they can with what they got. They're collecting and cataloging, information as it comes in, but they could do so much more if they had access to the evidence in this case.
Well, and I'm sure you saw that the Department of Homeland Security said that the ICE officer involved who shot and killed Renee Good, that he sustained injuries, that he suffered some internal bleeding. There was some reporting that came out where it said sources told, a bunch of news outlets that this was the case. You've seen the video. You have some familiarity with this case. Does it look like the officer was badly injured in this? The video I've seen over and over again does not indicate that to me.
Nope, but we could clear it all up if they just opened up the investigation, couldn't we?
Yeah.
I mean, he looks like he's managing. He's walking pretty well. He's not even limping. He's just he's walking. He's got a little hop in his step even. And so look, I'm not a doctor. Open up the file, allow an investigation, and we'll get down to the bottom of all of this. But here's the thing. They've said that there's nothing to see here. They've exonerated him. And on top of all of that, they have sort of let out little pieces that they want out, like this claim, and that's the best I can call it, is a claim that he's got some medical issue, and they let out this video that they thought served their purposes, but it's the same video where he referred to Renee with an expletive and a very demeaning comment about her, which is quite honestly not what I would expect. If I was narrowly hit by a car, it's probably not what I would say, but we'll find out, but the answer is not my opinion, yours or theirs. Let's have an investigation.
Yeah. Well, and on the issue of invoking the Insurrection Act, I mean, you can hear people in the administration starting to lay the groundwork for this, which is why I think they're serious about this. Stephen Miller was on Fox referring to people in Minneapolis who were protesting as insurgents and insurrectionists. And so let's play a little of that, because I think he mentions you too, and then I can get your response to that.
The mob on Thursday and part of Friday, we were out and about in Minneapolis. Is the word insurgency accurate? That is what I've chosen to describe this as, not a protest, not from what I saw.
Absolutely it is, Laura. You can use the term insurgency. You can use the term insurrection. You can use the term domestic terrorism. Mayor Jacob Frey, Governor Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison have deliberately, willfully, and purposefully incited this violent insurrection, this violent insurgency against immigration and customs enforcement, against Border Patrol.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously not what you've done, but your response.
Well, I mean, it's typical for that individual who makes all kind of extraordinary comments. But it does look like they're trying to set something up, right? They're trying to use the buzzword. And so, all I can say is that if they do that, we'll be in court right away. What I can tell you is that the municipal police officers and other officials are doing a great job maintaining public order. There's what we have is people protesting in the street, which Americans have every right to do. And this claim that there's some basis for the Insurrection Act is a pretext and a false statement. And so we'll be in court with them if they try it. We've met them in court over 50 times, and we'll meet them 50 more. And we've beat them just about every time, by the way.
Yeah. Well, and that is where the Trump administration has been stopped time and again, is in the courts. But it can get tied up for some time. I suppose, though, that they could send in the military. You could take them to court, and then you're just stuck with the military there on the street. I suppose that could happen.
Well, you know what? A number of scenarios could happen.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure them all out. Right.
I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah. We're trying to figure them all out. We're trying to be ready. And I can tell you that we are ready. But this kind of behavior is outrageous. And by the way, we have a lot of confidence in our election system in Minnesota. And in November, people are going to remember this very, very well. Minnesotans are outraged by this. They're deeply offended by this. After the death of Renee Good, you would think that any decent leader would say, you know what, maybe we need to look at this again. Maybe we're not going about it the right way. Yeah. They triple down. And now they want to add even more pain on the people of the state of Minnesota. It's hard for me to imagine how any elected official who cares about the people of the state could do anything but stop them with all legal means in the courts, whatever it is. But this is outrageous.
And I have to ask you about the right of people to protest and your position on that from a legal and constitutional standpoint, because we saw ICE officers, we have some video we can show, ICE officers telling a member of the press who said, I'm part of the press. And they said, you better not fuck around or you're going to get arrested. Just to quote what this guy, let's play a little bit of it. This is what the guy said.
Yeah.
Just press.
Right.
Just press.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck if y'all are press. So then y'all got pictures of somebody flattening the tire, right?
No, hey.
Yeah, if you're the fucking press.
I'm just press.
All right, so
I'm
we're
just
giving everybody a fucking warning. They fuck around, they're gonna get arrested. We got the plates, we got the vehicle.
And this is just another day in the life of people of Minnesota. They, ICE just going up there and bullying people and pushing them around and stuff. But if you're a member of the press, I mean, last time I checked, as long as you're not violating the law or impeding the officer's ability to do his job, you're allowed to observe, you're allowed to videotape, you're allowed to record.
In the America you and I grew up in, that was the law. Yeah. But I mean, let me just say, this is part of the problem. I've seen so many people who represent the press bullied, attacked, insulted, sprayed with chemical irritants. And let me just remind everybody, it's all First Amendment stuff. The first thing, they've denied people who are detained access to clergy. Well, that's the first clause of the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law establishing a religion or abridge the free exercise thereof. Then they interfere with the right of the press. And the right of the press is not the press's right. It's the people's right to know. So when they curtail press access, they're saying that, those of us who weren't on the scene don't get to know what's going on. And that's against our constitutional rights. Freedom of assembly, it's written right in there. Freedom to redress grievances is written right in there. So all of these First Amendment rights are in jeopardy right now, and we'll be in court with them. The ACLU is suing. We are, and we're just going to stay firm, and we're not backing down.
Yeah. And to me, I mean, I've traveled all 50 states. I've been to Minnesota so many times. The people there are just as nice as the day is long, and they talk about Minnesota nice. And it pains me to see this happening in the streets of Minneapolis. It's a great city, great people there. It's hard for me to see as a human being.
Jim, can I say this to you?
Yeah.
I think that is precisely why we are under attack. Because we are a state where people pride themselves on civic virtue, on a heart for the public interest. Our business community is quick to step up and try to do summer jobs for kids. We have a very vibrant community of refugees and immigrants here. In fact, our congresswoman is born in Somalia, and he doesn't like her. We have a strong labor community, and he lost our state 3 times in a row, but he's quite upset about it. In fact, he said on TV just the other day, well, that's a corrupt state. I won there 3 times, but they denied me my victory. He did not win 3 times, but he seems really mad about it even still. Yeah. It seems like he's coming after us because of who we are and what we stand for, and the fact that we don't bow to him. And we're never going to. This action is not going to make him look any better in our eyes. In fact, he looks quite a bit worse. And that's why, we're just going to stand on our rights and insist that the Constitution be obeyed.
Yeah. I mean, and they're just dragging people out of cars.
Look at this. They don't know what that woman's status is. And yet they did that to her. Brutal.
Yeah.
It seems incredible to me.
Yeah, and it seems to me that there are the makings of lots of lawsuits, lots of civil litigation.
There sure is. But my question is, how can any politician stand by this? How can anybody elected to represent the people say, yeah, that's okay?
And Democrat or Republican, but the White House says these officers have absolute immunity. Stephen Miller has said.
Oh, that's, by the way, a misstatement of the law. I can assure you, I've been a lawyer 35 years, maybe longer now, but I can tell you that is a wrong statement of the law. State authorities have every right to prosecute a federal official. There is a provision of the supremacy clause we have to deal with. It is a limited immunity, which we certainly, a judge would make a decision on it, but there's no absolute immunity. That is wrong. And I wonder, are they deliberately misstating the truth, or do they just not know, or do they just not care? But for anyone watching your show, Jim, there is no absolute immunity. It's untrue. And there is no statute of limitations on murder, by the way. And that's something that they should keep in mind, because they're not always going to be in power. And we will make the justice system operate on the basis of fairness, justice, and truth one day again.
And if you have to wait until 2029, so be it.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, there's a reason why statute of limitations on murder doesn't exist. It's because when you snatch a person's life away, it leaves an indelible print on everyone around them. People can't unsee this. And for a person like Becca Good, the spouse, I mean, her life has been altered forever. And
the children, and
the children. Yeah. It's and that's why justice is not gonna go to sleep or go away. We will pursue this to its logical, factual end.
Well, Keith, Mr. Attorney General, really appreciate the time as always. I know you're very busy. I heard during the interview a few pings here and there. I'm sure your phone is blowing up more than my phone is these days, that's for sure. But I know you're busy. But thank you so much for your time.
Well, do you mind me saying that, the free independent press is part of what this fight is all about?
Yeah.
As a politician, you can bet I've had my disagreement with a fair number of reporters, but that's not the point. The point is the institution of the press must be protected to have a free, fair, and open society. And in order for people to know what's going on, which is essential to them exercising their democratic prerogative. So Thank you for having me, and you let me know, and I'll be on.
You got it. Anytime. Thank you very much, sir. And we will keep fighting on for that First Amendment. It should mean something to everybody, Republican, Democrat, MAGA, you name it. So we'll keep doing that.
All right. Have a good one, Jim.
And that is the Attorney General for the state of Minnesota, Keith Ellison. I love the plug there at the end for independent media, for the First Amendment. It is absolutely vital that we have a strong, free, and independent media in this country. And if you believe in this cause, please subscribe. You can be a part of the conversation on this show if you were a subscriber. The like button also pays off in the end. It certainly helps us if you like this and share it with others. So please keep that in mind. That was unprompted on my part too. So I appreciate the Attorney General saying that. But you heard him say, and this is very important, at the end of that interview, he indicated that the ICE officer who killed Renee Good may still be subject to prosecution once the Trump folks are out of office. And so that is that to me is some news there, that he is saying that he's making it very clear he's not buying what the Trump White House is selling on all of that. The other thing that caught my eye today, and I think it's extremely important that we get into, is that Donald Trump once again is making comments about doing away with the upcoming midterm elections. I don't know if you saw this, but he gave an interview to Reuters. And during that interview, he said that maybe because he's done so well as president, there shouldn't be upcoming midterm elections. I had the perfect guest to talk to about this. I spoke with the Michigan Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson. She is running for governor, and she had some thoughts on this. Take a look. And joining us now is Jocelyn Benson, the Secretary of State for the state of Michigan, and running to be the next governor of the state of Michigan. Madam Secretary of State, great to see you as always.
Thanks for having me, Jim. Good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much. I have to, ask you, basically because it's in your wheelhouse of being the Secretary of State. I'm sure you're seeing, just to jump right into the news here, I'm sure you're seeing that Donald Trump over the last several days has been talking about canceling the upcoming midterm elections. He talked about it in front of some Republicans over at the Kennedy Center recently. And I guess in an interview with Reuters, I can show this on screen right here. He says he's boasted, this is what Reuters said. He boasted that he had accomplishments so much that, quote, when you think of it, we shouldn't even have an election. And then the White House was asked about this. I'll play that in a second. But I mean, your thoughts as to why he keeps bringing this up. And I do want to talk about Michigan stuff and why you're running for governor. But this is so much in the news. It must send a chill down your spine, having dealt with all this stuff that took place in the 2020 election when he attempted to steal the election back then.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I'm having flashbacks to the spring of 2020 when he was saying these same things. With COVID on the rise, he was suggesting we should cancel the 2020 midterm or 2020 presidential election.
Right.
And first, the president does not have the authority to cancel an election, period. He does not. He can say he does. He does not. Now, we know this president likes to stretch the boundaries on what he thinks his authority is. It doesn't matter. Elections are run by the states. He does not have the authority to cancel any elections. What he could do is insert confusion into the electorate about whether there is an election. We know this is a tried and true voter suppression tactic. And that is really what he's doing here, trying to deter people from believing in democracy, believing we need an election. And of course, at a time where we very much need elections to hold election officials, leaders accountable. I mean, that is the purpose of elections, not just to elect those who reflect our values, to ensure we can have affordable healthcare and housing and all the rest, but also to hold people accountable when they abuse their authority or create unsafe communities in cities throughout our country. So this is an election where accountability is going to be on the ballot for this president. It's no surprise that he suddenly doesn't want us to have them, but he cannot cancel the election. He can only make us doubt our own faith in them. And he'll only succeed in that if we let him. So it's on us to not allow that to happen, to stand firm in furtherance of our democracy. We did it in 2020 and democracy prevailed. We're going to have to do it again in 2026.
And the White House was asked about this and they said, oh, he was just kidding. Let's play this and I'll ask you about this.
My question is, the president talked twice in recent days, once at the Kennedy Center and then to Reuters again last night about canceling the election. Why is he talking about this?
I believe you're referring to the president's interview at Reuters last night. I was in that interview. It was a closed-door interview. Obviously, there was not audio or video. The president was simply joking. He was saying, we're doing such a great job. We're doing everything the American people thought. Maybe we should just keep rolling. But he was speaking facetiously.
And then one.
I mean, Jocelyn, do you think he's joking when he talks like this?
No, I think he's deliberately trying to sow seeds of doubt about people's faith in our democracy and the need for us to defend democracy in moments like this, defend our power as Americans to choose our leaders and hold them accountable. So, and again, we've heard these quote unquote jokes before in 2020, and we saw what unfolded then. So to me, this is no joking matter. It's a reminder that we all have a responsibility to protect democracy in this moment. And so to me, it's simply a reaffirmation that the threats to and the challenges to democracy that we fought through in 2020 have not gone away. And it's on us to continue to protect and defend that foundation of who we are as Americans, even as the president makes jokes about doing away with it.
Yeah. And you kind of indicated or alluded earlier, maybe you didn't, but I thought you did, to what we've been seeing unfold in cities around the country with ICE, and especially what's been taking place in Minneapolis, not too terribly far from where you are in Michigan. And it has just been astonishing and troubling and disturbing to see what's unfolded there. Your thoughts on how that has played out, how ICE has been cracking down on immigration around the country and going after U.S. citizens. We saw the killing of Renee Good just last week.
Yeah, the tragic loss of a mother who, innocent life taken. I mean, we know one thing's for certain: this intrusion on Americans' freedoms and trampling on free speech is not making anyone safe. It's not making communities safer. It is only generating fear and disruption and worse, and tragedies. You know, I grew up in my foundation of my career is from the civil rights movement, really standing in support of those who fought and pushed and protested so that we could expand democracy and protect our civil rights. And so this is a moment, again, where I think we have to, lean back on who we are as Americans. We are people who stand up to bullies, who believe strongly in the freedom of speech and those constitutional protections. And this is a moment where we all need to, in a way that is, of course, peaceful and nonviolent, continue to stand firm in those values of standing up to bullies, of standing for our First Amendment rights of free speech, and also where state officials are particularly critical, governors in particular, in using every tool in our toolbox to protect the rights of the citizens in our states to be free, to have those constitutional protections in place, and to be safe in their own communities from federal overreach.
Yeah, I mean, are you concerned, should you become the governor of Michigan, that this could play out in Detroit? This could play out in Michigan. I'm sure it has to a smaller extent here and there. There probably have been flare-ups. But I mean, to see something like this in your state, it would trouble me, I would think, if I were in your shoes, be worried about that.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, look, as Secretary of State, we have seen efforts to disrupt our elections. And I have been a Secretary of State in Michigan who has, unapologetically and unafraid to stand up to the President of the United States, no matter how many threats he throws my way. I have used every tool in our toolbox to protect our rights and freedoms here in Michigan as a Secretary of State, and I'll do the same as governor. And I would argue, as we approach the midterms, the governors and those running for governor in these respective, particularly in battleground states, really have two jobs. One, to propose ways to drive down the cost of living and make things affordable, from healthcare to housing to energy costs and food, and also be prepared to stand firmly in defense of our rights, freedoms, and the protection and safety of our citizens against federal overreach and threats and worse from the president and those who are working in concert with his orders. So all that to say is I'm prepared to do that. I've done that as Secretary of State, and I think state officials right now are in many ways the guardrails against this abuse of authority, against this federal overreach, and against this misuse of many of our service members as well, in a way that would challenge the safety and upend the peace of many communities in states throughout our country.
Yeah, and as you know, I mean, you alluded to this too, that these bread and butter economic issues are going to be on the table for lots of people when they go to the polls this fall, and healthcare is one of them. And they have not renewed the Obamacare premium support provisions that were there in place for people who had trouble affording healthcare in this country. And I'm just curious. It sounds as though you've come out with a proposal recently in the state of Michigan to tackle this. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that the job of governors right now is to make life more affordable and to protect our rights and freedoms. I've done both as Secretary of State. I'll do both as the next governor of Michigan. And particularly when it comes to healthcare, I've traveled Michigan throughout the last year, and every stop, no exaggeration, from the Upper Peninsula to Detroit to Flint to Muskegon, every place I go, Michiganders have these heart-wrenching stories as premiums are on the rise of this broken, unfair, and inaccessible healthcare system with skyrocketing prescription drug costs and challenges related to rural hospitals closing because they can't stay open with all of the cuts to Medicaid. So the job of governors right now is to make sure our state agencies work to ensure the seamless coverage for healthcare for residents throughout our states. And we have a plan to do that here in Michigan. And in addition to that, work to address the physician shortage that is also driving up reductions in access to healthcare while ensure we're using, again, every tool in our toolbox to drive down those costs for residents and make it easy for them to ensure access to affordable quality healthcare. I think it's going to be the number one issue in this midterm election, in addition to keeping our community safe. And state officials are going to be unique. Governors in particular are uniquely positioned to do something about it.
You're so right. Everybody talks about healthcare, how their premiums are going up. And I cannot imagine being in the shoes of somebody right now who is saying, I just can't afford it anymore. My premiums went up double, triple. It's just out of control right now.
I've talked to people who have covered the cost of healthcare premiums for their neighbors because they see neighbors who are suffering from cancer who can no longer afford the premiums on the insurance to keep themselves alive. And I mean, that's what it's sort of the beauty of neighborhoods and communities right now, standing up for each other and covering these costs for each other. But it should not be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. This is a moment where it feels like government is kind of showing up everywhere we don't want it and nowhere where we actually need it. Where we need government to show up is in ensuring we can stay healthy and have access to life-saving healthcare that we have had and should have as a right, and that under this presidential administration is the cost of it is going up and it's becoming unaffordable for far too many residents, hundreds of thousands of residents in my state.
Yeah. And one of the things I'm sure you'll be doing between now and Election Day is talking to some auto workers. And you may have a sense as to where I'm going with this question. But just the other day, Donald Trump was in Detroit. He spoke to the Detroit Economic Club. And there was a moment, I suppose, where he was, talking to some auto workers. And one of them, told Donald Trump exactly what he thought of the president of the United States. And he called Trump a pedophile protector, I believe, or something along those lines. And then Trump mouthed back to that auto worker, F you. He said it a couple of times. What did you see that? What was your response to that?
I think it really underscores the lack of respect this president has for the working men and people of Michigan and of our country. It's a lack of respect that was epitomized in that moment, but it's also come out through the policy decisions he made that have driven up the cost of healthcare and the cost of just about everything else. Tariffs that are reckless and hurting our automotive industry in a significant way. He made a promise when he came to Michigan in 2024 to help alleviate the burdens of voters in this state, and he's only made things worse. And that what we saw yesterday unfold is an illustration of the lack of respect that he has for the people whose lives he has diminished as a result of his reckless economic policies. It's one of the reasons I'm running for governor, because I love and respect these working men and women in our state and will fight for them against anyone who would harm their economic well-being and disrespect them like the president did yesterday.
And it seems to me that, I thought I read somewhere, heard somewhere that this auto worker might lose his job over this. My goodness, I thought this was a free country. You're allowed to say what you want. I mean, the president can't handle an insult. I mean, I don't get it,
Yeah. I mean, as you know firsthand, there's a pattern in this administration of trying to silence people and trying to make people afraid to speak and afraid to speak their mind. And the basis of the First Amendment in our Constitution is to protect citizens' ability to speak their mind and have their voice heard, even in the midst of a powerful figure who doesn't agree with them, or worse, right? So to me, it's another, this president has shown us who he is time and time again, through his policies, through his decisions, through actions like these. And it's up to us to redefine who we are as Americans in this democracy. And to me, this is not a partisan issue. This is an American issue. And I believe the elections in 2026, which will happen on schedule, are an opportunity for us as voters to speak clearly and loudly who we are, our respect and care for each other, and the policies we expect our leaders to show for it.
Yeah. And just finally, you feel pretty good that these elections will go off okay. Do you get concerned at all that he's going to try to pull a fast one, send, National Guard? I mean, he did say just the other day to the New York Times that he regretted not sending the National Guard after voting machines. I mean, this is what goes through his mind. And now he's at the point where he's just saying it out loud. Like he's saying how he wants Greenland and how he wants Venezuela. He just said to a reporter, "I wish I had taken the voting machines or sent the National Guard after them." Do you worry about whether this is going to happen?
And we worried about it in 2020. And we see the seeds again being planted now. It's, to me, in this moment, it reinforces the need for election administrators, state officials, secretaries of state like myself, all of us citizens, to know how fragile our democracy is and how important it is for us to stand in defense of it. That's actually what succeeded in 2020. Citizens showing up to meetings, demanding that votes be counted, and really just speaking the truth everywhere we could, and protecting the hallmark of our democracy, our election systems, and the security of our election machines. So we've gone through this in 2020. We're prepared to go through it again successfully in 2026. But make no mistake, these statements, these quote unquote jokes the president is making, should be a signal to all of us of the importance of voting, but also serving as an election worker, being involved in our elections, standing firm in defense of our democracy everywhere we can, with every tool we can, so that we are clear as a nation that we won't allow anyone to stand in the way of our voice and our vote and our ability to hold our election officials accountable.
Well, Jocelyn, Benson, thank you very much for your time. It's always good to catch up, always good to chat. Good luck out there on the campaign trail. I know you're probably feeling okay now. It's going to get a little exhausting, I think, between now and the end of the year. But thanks as always for making time for me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. I'm ready. I'm a runner. I'm a marathoner, as you know, so I'm ready for the race.
You're training now.
Exactly.
And apparently you have a new companion. I should just say,
yes.
you did pick up a companion at the auto show the other day.
At the Detroit Auto Show, yes. I was inspired by the Michigan Humane Society, who brought puppies in their booth, fell in love with this little puppy named Lily, adopted her on the spot. And Governor Whitmer gave me advice once and said, you're going to want to adopt a dog when you become governor. And so I did it. It's nice to have a puppy to keep us happy and safe and peaceful, even in the midst of a rigorous election season.
I was going to say, if you're not busy enough, you will be. That's for sure, with a puppy on your hands. But
my 9-year-old son's very happy about the puppy.
That's good. That's a good call there. Very good call there. Thanks, Jocelyn. Great to see you. Good luck.
You too, Jim. Take care.
And she will be with a puppy. I can tell you that firsthand. When I adopted Duke at the tender age of 8 weeks old, little Duke, he was a busy little guy. That's why he has been enshrined on my coffee mug. He's waiting outside the podcasting door here to come and wreck the studio as soon as I'm done. I mean, one thing that we should have, first of all, that employee, that Ford Motor employee, TJ Sabula, has been suspended. The auto union is standing up for him. I just want to make sure that folks understand what's happening with TJ Sabula. If anybody knows TJ Sabula, drop a comment in the comments. I want to get in touch with this guy because, first of all, some $810,000 has been raised for his GoFundMe. So it just goes to show you that sometimes good things happen to good people. And so he should be rewarded for saying what he has to say to the president. You don't get to just be president and say that sort of thing and people get suspended for it. That's ridiculous. Let's talk strategy. now with somebody who knows a thing or two about Democratic strategy. We just heard from a couple of very prominent Democrats. There's Mike Nellis. Mike,
Hey,
great
Jim.
to see you. You and I have been talking about this forever. We've been on with Don before, but you and I haven't done this together. So I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for being a couple minutes late. Just had some tech issues.
No. Glad you could do it. Glad you could be here. I mean, first of all, I just spoke with Jocelyn Benson. She's one of these up and coming Democrats.
Yeah.
Very, courageous in the way she defended her state's election system back in 2020. Now she's running for governor. You know, when Donald Trump is out there saying to Reuters, and I guess he said it the other day at the Kennedy Center, oh, we might cancel the elections or something along those lines. And then today the White House said, oh, he was just joking. I don't think anybody should write this off or dismiss it as a joke. It seems to me.
Well, how many times have we thought Donald Trump was joking about something and then it suddenly becomes real? I mean, this morning, European leaders moved European troops into Greenland because they're concerned the White House is going to make a move and invade. And there's reports that he's asked army generals to drop invasion plans. So I think you got to take this president serious, whether he talks about a third term, canceling elections, anything. And we should still run through the tape for 2028 or 2026 and 2028. But I don't trust him as far as I could throw him.
No, of course not. And I mean, one of the things I did want to talk to you about is this whole Minneapolis thing. I mean, Trump was out there today, posting about he might invoke the Insurrection Act and so on. How do you think Democrats are handling this? How far is too far in pushing this? What's the right policy recommendation? I had Hakeem Jeffries on the other day. He was stopping short of saying abolish ICE. Maybe he'll come to that position. I don't know, but he didn't say that with me. He was saying, well, we want to stop DHS funding if they don't stop wearing the masks and that sort of thing. What is your sense of how this should play out? How Democrats should approach this?
Yeah, well, I think I get scared anytime I see the word abolish, and not because I don't understand what it means. It's because it is the most unpopular policy I've ever seen pulled in the history of American politics, potentially. Like, people hate the phrase defund the police. They hate the phrase abolish ICE. But this is the first time we've seen meaningful polling where a majority of Americans, or at least a plurality of Americans in a poll this week, are thinking about it. They support it.
Pretty close to it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, 46% of Americans said that they would abolish ICE, and 51% of Americans in a CNN poll this week said that they believe ICE causes more damage and chaos everywhere that they go. And it's really hard to get the American people to be against something that has to do with law enforcement. But that's how insane what the Trump administration is doing is. They're basically kidnapping people off the streets indiscriminately based on the color of their skin while wearing masks and driving unmarked cars. And people are pretty pissed off and they're sick of it. And so I think you have a majority of Americans who understand this. And the flip side of it is you have the shooting of Renee Good last week, and the response from the Republican Party has been disgusting. They've called her a domestic terrorist. They've tried to other her. They've made fun of her marriage. They made fun of her kids. They made fun of her pronouns, which like Laura Loomer was doing on X the other day, like super weird stuff. And what most people had the same reaction to Charlie Kirk's assassination as they did here. They were like, oh my God, that's horrible. And that shouldn't happen because it's a normal person's response to this. So the more that they act unhinged, the more people start to go, oh, maybe the left has a point, that what they're doing with ICE is scary and they want it to stop.
Yeah. And, I kind of wonder what Governor Tim Walz does in this situation, because if Trump does invoke the Insurrection Act, and I did see you posted something about, I guess Stephen Miller was on with Laura Ingraham, and I mean, you can hear them laying the foundation for doing this, calling the protesters insurgents and insurrectionists. And so let's play this again, and we could talk about it, because
The mob.
this gets to what Tim Walz should do.
On Thursday and part of Friday, we were out and about in Minneapolis. Is the word insurgency accurate? That is what I've chosen to describe this as, not a protest, not from what I saw.
Absolutely it is, Laura. You can use the term insurgency. You can use the term insurrection. You can use the term domestic terrorism. Mayor Jacob Frey, Governor Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison have deliberately, willfully, and purposefully incited this violent insurrection, this violent insurgency against immigration and customs enforcement, against Border Patrol.
It's horseshit, but this is what they're consuming over at Fox.
Well, it's even worse. I did Newsmax today, and they were talking about how we have to remove everyone, and they were calling every person who's here illegally. They were implying that they're all, rapists and pedophiles. And I about lost my mind on live TV because I can't get over the dehumanization. So a couple things on Miller. One, and I said it in the tweet, but like, he's a weasel and a coward, because the only time he goes on TV is when late night Fox News hosts will kiss his ass. And they never put him on with anybody else to actually debate him on his ideas, because he get his ass handed to him by me or you or anybody else. So that's number one. But the language that they use is super intentional. They call us terrorists. They call us insurrectionists. They dehumanize anybody who stands up against them, whether they're a journalist like you, Jim, or they're an activist and a strategist like me. They're laying the groundwork for this. And I think if Minnesota gets out of hand, you asked about Governor Walz, he's got a tough position to be in, because there's now whatever number of ICE agents there were there, plus the 1,000 that they surged after Renee Good was killed. And they're creating chaos, and there's protesters who are fighting back, and he's got to keep that situation from spiraling so far out of control that Trump could actually win a Supreme Court case to nationalize the federal guard or use the Insurrection Act. I don't think anybody wants to get to that point, so they're trying to like balance how they do it. But they continue, and this is what scares me about Venezuela and blowing up of the boats, is we gave an extraordinary amount of power to the executive after 9/11 to keep us safe. And Barack Obama expanded that after Bush did to take out, drone strikes in Yemen and other places like that. Now Trump's using the same justification to take out boats in the Caribbean. I worry that extends to, we're going to blow up drug dealers in Mexico. We're going to blow up mobile meth labs in New Mexico. And suddenly that's targeting people like me in Chicago because they speak out against the administration. And I don't know that this Congress would stand up to them. And I'm not saying that like there's a drone over my head or anything, or that I'm scared. It's just, I think that's the natural evolution of the language that they use and the way that they use power.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary as shit what Stephen Miller is talking about. And I think that's the point. They want everybody to be afraid.
Yeah.
Trump likes being the bully. They all like being the bully, and they want people to back down, and they want Tim Walz to back down. And my sense of it is that he needs to stand up to Donald Trump in this moment, that the people of Minnesota need to continue to peacefully, legally, constitutionally stand up to Donald Trump. And but my concern is that, of course, this, Mike, any protest can get out of control, can get to a point where tempers flare and people become violent, they lose their cool and so on. And all it needs is one spark. We saw this in LA, and they'll just go bananas and attempt to do this. And I don't know where we are as a country if, we have a situation where Trump just says, that's it, we're going to do the Insurrection Act, try and stop me.
Yeah. And my advice to anybody out there protesting, and I've been out there protesting, is like, keep your head on a swivel. Like that's what my football coaches used to tell me when I was in high school. It's what you got to do. Like, move forward, but know what's to your left, know what's to your right, know what's behind you. Because that's basically it. But make smart decisions. And like Renee Good parking her car in the middle of the street to impede ICE. I know that there are activists who teach you to do that. I probably wouldn't advise you to do that. I understand why you're doing it, but given the way that ICE escalates every situation, I don't want people putting their bodies on the line that way. I want people to be safe, and I want them to, I'd rather try to organize to keep people safe and make sure they can get what they've got to do. And
she moved her car. I mean, she said, you see her in the video saying, dude, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with you. And she's moving her car, and the ICE officer, contrary to his own training, the way they're supposed to, well, some of them aren't trained, but the way they're supposed to operate, their standard operating procedures, not to move in front of vehicles like that.
Yeah. Well, have you seen the thing about the number of days they're getting trained right now?
It's pathetic.
Yeah.
They're not even
47 days.
47
days. What
days.
Senator Warner said, because he's the 47th president. Like, how else are you supposed to interpret that other than him building a private army for himself?
And we don't know who's in, who's serving in ICE, because they wear these masks, and God knows who's serving in ICE right now. The other thing we need to talk about, Mike, is, I mean, you've done extremely well on Substack and independent media, and we're seeing this play out in Minneapolis, where independent media is playing a huge role there. We're seeing lots of people not working for a network, not working for a newspaper, people who are content creators on social media, independent journalists, and it's having a big moment right now. It's one of the reasons why the whole world is seeing what's watching. Talk about how you've been able to do this, because I want to talk about this more and more. How it is just so damn important right now to have a strong, independent media in this country.
Yeah, and I want to add one more thing on ICE, if that's okay. If I could just
please.
Because you said, like, we don't know who's serving in ICE, but they don't know who's serving in ICE either. There's all these stories about, apparently last year they used artificial intelligence to escalate or to accelerate the pace of the hiring. And they hired a bunch of people who weren't qualified for the job, couldn't pass a background test, couldn't pass a drug test. They've got people who are Proud Boys. My guess is they have former January 6th insurrectionists who are in ICE. So they don't even know who they've hired. Yeah. On independent media, like I'm super proud of the community that we've built at Endless Urgency. And I think a lot of it's like the intersection of like dumb luck and hard work. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. But I like, we've got just so many people that are out there doing it. And I think about you and Katie Fang and Don Lemon in particular are like three of the people I tell people to support all the time. Is I'm not a journalist and I'm a content creator, but I'm not an influencer. It's like, I'm a Democratic Party strategist. Like, I was frustrated that the party was not responding the way that I felt like it needed to a year ago. I think they were given too much latitude and leeway to Trump. And I kept speaking out to give people some kind of an avenue and a lane to take it. And for me, it's like, if they're given money, I want them to give it to you. I want them to give it to Katie. I want them to find independent journalists, because that's the work that needs to be done. Look at CBS this week, and CBS News is now a shell of what it used to be. They're reporting these two anonymous sources from the White House that the officer who was rammed with the car has internal bleeding. Thank you for whoever threw that up. It is like, that's bullshit. If it was even remotely true, they would have been talking about that for the last 10 days since the shooting. So it just suddenly appears. Like, it's crazy.
Mike, you stole my thunder a little bit, but I'll do it at the end of the show anyway. I was going to bring this up at the end of the show. No, it's totally fine. I mean, here's the thing, and I know, because I've worked in news divisions before, and I worked at CBS before I worked at CNN.
Yeah.
You know, when the government comes and says, hey, by the way, reporter so-and-so, we have this information for you. We can give you a scoop. You know, that ICE agent who shot Renee Good, he suffered internal bleeding. Now, I can't put that on the record. You can't quote me on this, but you can say that you got it on background from a U.S. official. You can't even, it doesn't even say what department of the federal government told CBS this. Right. And, it's like, this is bullshit. If they're willing to go on the record, fine, put your name out there and tell us who is giving CBS this information. But I totally agree with you. It's high grade bullshit.
Yeah. At a bare minimum, there would have been an exam, right? Like, where's the medical information out there? But you can't give this administration any bit of credit. They lie about the things you can see. They lie about the things you can feel. They lie about the things you experience and hear. They lie about everything. Like Trump said he was going to release the video of the second TAP strike on the Venezuela boat. And then like 3 days later, he's like, I never said that. I never said anything like that. And then they just lie and gaslight their way through it. So they get no leeway for me. But when I did Newsmax earlier today, they were shoving it down my throat, because that's how desperate they are right now.
They're
because
desperate.
They can't cover up what happened to Renee Good. There's 40 different versions of the event that we've seen, far away, up close, the officer holding the phone, why was the officer holding his gun and a phone at the same time? Pretty sure that's not a standing operating procedure. And I say that as somebody, like, I have a concealed carry license.
They have body cams.
Yeah, they're supposed to have body cams, but they teach you in law enforcement, or when you get your concealed carry, that to hold the gun with both hands, to steady it. You aim with one hand, you fire with the other. Like, that's just basic shit.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And I mean, to me, I was watching Fox last night, some of their coverage of when, stuff was breaking in the streets of Minneapolis last night. The reporter was there, and she was talking about this in terms that was like, they were just describing a totally parallel universe.
Yeah.
In terms of, the people who are on the streets protesting and so on. And it's just so damn depressing, because that's the world that we live in right now, Mike. When, we talk about independent media and how important it is. There are so many people watching Fox, consuming that bullshit, injecting it into their veins, and they just don't know what's happening in the world, because Fox will do anything to carry Trump's water at this point.
I do think, though, over time, it starts to break apart. And the economy is the perfect example of this. They're doubling and tripling down right now on ICE. But like 6 months ago, I did Harris Faulkner's show, and she laughed at me, or actually it was a guest host, excuse me, but the guest host laughed at me because I suggested that people were frustrated with inflation, and they were bragging about how low the numbers were and how Donald Trump had killed inflation. And look what happened right after the election. So reality will bite them in the ass. And that happens to Democrats too, because I think Democrats in 2024 and 2023 were in denial about how angry people were about inflation. We're in denial about the border. We're in denial about Biden's health. And I say that with love for Joe Biden and his administration, but a lot of us did not speak out, and we're in denial, and reality bit us in the ass. So that's the lesson that we have to learn, but they're learning it now too, because they're a party of one man. Everything runs through Donald Trump. So if he's old and ailing and falling asleep in the White House, and because he fell asleep yesterday, did you see the weird milk press conference they did yesterday? Yeah, that was.
I posted about it. It reminded me of that scene from Anchorman when Ron Burgundy drinks the milk in the hot summer heat. He says milk was a bad choice. Just say maybe Trump had too much of the whole milk. It is very fattening. It's very filling, and it might give you a little bit of a milk coma there, I suppose. But
did you see the little girl who was at the press conference? And
I saw the little girl.
She looks right at Trump, looks right at her mom, and the mom goes, "I don't know." Like, it's just like, is grandpa dead? I'm terrified. Like, it's just it's so ridiculous.
But this is our world now. We just have to, we're just all waiting to see, Donald Trump, if he'll just stay awake during those meetings in the Oval Office. Can Grandpa Simpson just stay awake, or is he just going to pass out and just,
But you know what? But there's like a scary angle to this. Like, it's funny, and we should definitely mock the shit out of him. But like, I get people in my comments when I go live, they would be like, they should invoke Article 25. And I'm like, none of these guys are ever going to invoke Article 25. They have a great cushy job where they can grift and thieve and do whatever they want on behalf of their billionaire buddies. Some of them are billionaires, by the way. And then nobody checks in on them. Like, Donald Trump doesn't know what they're doing. So it's a great gig for them and Stephen Miller.
In some cases, they're laughing all the way to the bank. It sounds as though that, they're 100%. Lining their pockets.
The simple, humble soybean farmer Howard Letnick over there, he's struggling though with his soybeans.
Poor guy. I hope he makes it through this. Mike, great to see you, man. Thanks a lot. Let's do this again. We should do this more often. And I'm glad we finally made it work. Good to see you, man.
Me too. Thanks, Jim. Congratulations on all your success this year. You've been killing it.
Hey, you too. Mike Nellis with Endless Urgency. Got to check that out. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. And Mike did steal my thunder a little bit, but I do want to show this headline one more time because I just want to say what a crock of shit this story is. ICE agent who shot Renee Good suffered internal bleeding, officials say. Look at this story. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent, I should say, who fatally shot Renee Good last week in Minneapolis, Jonathan Ross, suffered internal bleeding to the torso following the incident, according to 2 U.S. officials briefed on his medical condition. It was unclear how extensive the bleeding was. No shit. I mean, after he shot Renee Good in the face 3 times and killed her, he called her a fucking bitch. I just want to make sure that everybody remembers what I heard and what I saw last week. And, the internal bleeding was not so severe that he couldn't utter that expletive about somebody he just killed, an innocent person he just murdered on the streets of Minneapolis. So get this shit out of here. Shame! And here's the video. Here's the video right here. You guys tell me. Shame! Looks okay, seems okay. But at the end of the day, the press just has to be more responsible in all of this. As Mike and I were just talking about a few moments ago, if these officials want to put that kind of horse shit out in the press to the American people to try to shape the narrative, how shameful is that? Can you imagine being that person and having that job to go out there and just lie to the American people days after this woman was murdered and say, oh, by the way, you can't report me on the record, but you can say it on background. According to a U.S. official, he suffered internal bleeding. Give me a break. And the press needs to, you need to hold firm. You can't buy this kind of, headline Access Potomac bullshit. That's what they're trying to pull here when they give you those kinds of scoops. The reporters involved in these kinds of stories who are doing this kind of reporting, they need to insist on these U.S. officials giving their names. We need to know the liars by their names. If you're going to go out there and say that this agent suffered internal bleeding, we need to hear that information on the record, ladies and gentlemen, on the record. And so, I didn't want to go on a long diatribe about this, but I saw that headline and I saw a lot of other people reacting to it too. And I had the exact same response. And this takes me back to what I've been saying, throughout this program. And I'm going to say it again. This is why independent media is so important in this country right now. We can't have, CBS, my former employer, I worked there a million years ago when I was a young correspondent. That kind of story would not have passed the smell test with Dan Rather. I can tell you that. That story would not have passed the smell test with Bob Schieffer. I can tell you that. And so something has happened over there. Something has happened with these news outlets where they feel like they too have to appease the dear leader. They too have to play a role in the spreading of lies and propaganda in this country. And to me, it's just a crying shame. This is not who CBS is. This is not what CBS News should be. And I've really struggled with this because I hear people saying, CBS, get it? CBS. And when I look at this story, that's what I see. I see BS. I see bullshit. And it needs to be called out. My thanks to Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota. My thanks to Jocelyn Benson, the Michigan Secretary of State who's running for governor. My thanks to Mike Nellis. Had a great conversation with him as well. And my thanks to all of you. Please continue to support independent media, whether it's here or somewhere else. Like, subscribe. It makes a huge difference. It makes a whole world of difference in terms of propping up this industry, getting this industry up on its feet. So there is a viable alternative to the corporate media, which has just been letting us down, just doing a shitty job on behalf of the American people. And it's the exact wrong moment to be letting the American people down. So that is why this is so vitally important. So please continue to show that support. And my thanks to all of you for watching. Still reporting from Washington, I'm Jim Acosta. I'll see you next time.